Doglover69, a speedrunner whose name strikes fear into anyone who knows his legacy. His story began 2 months ago when I, uhhh, managed to get the first sub 1 minute speedrun in a game called Eraser, a run that took the community over 3 months to achieve. However, just 1 month after his first ever speedrun, Doglover had beaten that world record. If we go to watch his run though, things start to get kinda strange. The footage is in really low quality, and if we listen to the audio behind the speedrun, worst of all though is the message written in his description. Just 2 bone-chilling words. Word record. This guy was clearly trolling. Not only was he making a joke out of the whole community, but he had the fastest run in the game. And this is how he did it. In the Eraser speedrun, the player has to platform their way to the top of a tower as fast as possible. Thankfully though, the game gives us some pretty versatile movement to get there. So in the first 10 seconds of the run, Doglover optimized the fastest possible route in the tutorial section, skipping as many platforms as he could by using taller jumps, while also reducing as much airtime as possible. Then after getting to this platform, he performed the first major strat in the run, aptly titled Poop Skip, where by making an incredibly precise jump to this ledge, he was able to skip this entire section of the map. He then made a similar jump up here to skip 2 platforms to the side, then quickly parried these 2 cannonballs, and then just barely reached this cannonball above. You might have noticed just how close he was to missing that last parry, but that was no coincidence. Since all of the cannonballs in the tower shoot with a consistent rhythm, and all of the cannonballs continue shooting even after resetting a run, Doglover used this to manipulate the cycles in the game. Before his run, by resetting right as this cannonball touched the platform, he started his attempt with all of the cannonballs set up in the perfect position, so that when he finally got to this cannonball, he would be able to parry it at the last second, saving around a full second of in-game time. This would be crucial, because then it would set up a bonk strat, one of the most technical glitches in the run. I mentioned this glitch in my first Eraser video, but here's a quick refresher. If the player fails to parry a cannonball, they're locked in a stun animation and then sent flying, which loses a lot of time. But by bonking on purpose, he used that time to bounce on the platform above, which then gave him just enough height to jump to the tall ledge. This strat skipped an entire section of the game, saving around 5 seconds total, while also setting up a second glitch, which will be pretty important later on. From there though, he quickly parried the cannonball past the ledge, a couple more leading into the next platform, and then he performed the biggest glitch of the run. First, he parried this cannonball past the platform right after attacking. This triggered a glitch called a double parry dash, which for some reason gives the player an extra jump and parry midair. He used this extra height to make it all the way to the caution cannonball right above him, and this is where his setup for the glitch would pay off. In the code for the game, when the player recovers midair, whatever velocity they had before their recovery is stored and then added into their next bonk. So by storing velocity in his first bonk and then attacking this caution cannonball straight upwards, he was sent flying all the way to the final section of the game. He then jumped onto the tallest platform in order to parry the cannonball above, and by using one last double parry dash, he made it to the top of the tower for a new sub 1 minute world record. But this story is far from over. After all, I couldn't just let some guy take my world record, right? So now I was gonna try and beat his run. Looking at his record, there weren't any new strats that he actually employed, but he had the skill to execute these strats with a 100 millisecond time save. So if I was gonna beat his time, I would just have to play even faster than he did. And on the 7th of March of 2022, I submitted a run where I did exactly that. It'd be pointless to go over all the same strats over again, but the time save I will point out came after the giant bonk, where I had gotten just a slight bit more height into a faster jump onto the tallest platform. This was enough to get for myself another 59.7 second time, beating Doglover's world record. And hey, just for fun, I also added the same low quality music to my own world record. But then, Doglover did this the very next day. He submitted yet another run, exactly 100 milliseconds faster than mine. Once again, there's not much to talk about, but his biggest time save happened right after ledge skip, where he parried the fast cannonball a little bit sooner than in my run. From there, he kept up his pace and hit the eraser for a new time of 59.609. Nice. At this point, you might be wondering, is it even possible for me to beat Doglover? Memes aside, I was going up against potentially the greatest Eraser speedrunner of all time. So if I did want to beat his run, I would have to answer one question. Just what what does Dog Lover want here? The guy was obviously just messing around, so what compelled him to put 3 months of effort into grinding the game? After looking into his profile on speedrun.com, you might notice something strange. I've neglected to mention it up until now, but Eraser also has a hard difficulty. In hard mode, mid-air recovery is removed entirely, and fall damage happens at a significantly reduced height. These changes mean that bonk strats are impossible, which also means that speedrunning hard mode was actually a bit easier than speedrunning the base game. In fact, Dog Lover had already obtained the world record on hard mode before he even began speedrunning normally, so after noticing this for myself, I might have gotten an idea. For the next 2 days, I played Eraser and didn't submit any new runs. But then, on March 10th, I submitted a new world record to the hard mode leaderboards. In order to beat Dog Lover's time, I had to see just what hard mode strats he was using. Typically, most of the run is the same as normal mode, but without bonk strats, 2 new strats had to take their place. For the first strat, a double parry dash is used to reach this platform in front of the same ledge. Then, by performing an incredibly precise jump into an attack parry, it's possible to barely reach the ledge without using bonks, a strat called plane skip. Then, once we get to the second bonk, we instead parry the top of the caution ball to parry one of these 2 cannonballs. From here, we follow a basic route up to this cannonball, and by parrying one more, we finally make it to the ending section just as we would have before. The hardest time save to go for here would be plane skip. Personally, I hadn't even landed the strat in a run, which I thought would make beating his record impossible. But the funny thing is that Dog Lover didn't use plane skip. Even though plane skip is a huge time save, he simply went through the main route in the plane section to jump over the ledge. And with that, I knew I could beat his time with enough grinding. The way I ended up saving time was with an extremely lucky cycle after the planes ledge, where I reached the cannonball a second earlier than Dog Lover did. Then, by keeping up my pace, I was able to submit another 1:14 time to the leaderboards, beating his time by 200 milliseconds. And that's when it happened. The very next day, Dog Lover submitted a new hard mode world record, and the first 1:13 hard mode speedrun. He didn't quite get the lucky cycle that I got, but instead, he landed a better cycle later into the run, which was enough to save 300 milliseconds over my time. But then, just 10 minutes after he posted that run, I submitted a new normal mode world record to the leaderboards. Within those 2 days I spent without the record, I had also gotten another world record in normal mode by saving around 50 milliseconds with a slightly better positioning after my caution bonk. Then, just to fuck with him a little bit, I waited to post my normal speedrun until after he had gotten back his hard mode record. However, all that was doing was buying me time, because in actuality, my goal was to be the first ever runner to reach the final second barrier in Eraser. I know it sounds really far-fetched, but there is a theoretical perfect route in the game. To land it though, it relies on an insane amount of skill, a bit of luck, and it requires the fastest possible cycle. Earlier in the video, I mentioned a time save I had gotten in hard mode by reaching a faster cycle after the planes ledge. But then, Dog Lover beat my time by getting a slightly better cycle in the ending section. And this wasn't just a coincidence. There's actually a similar cycle that can be reached at the ledge cannonball in the base difficulty. And in fact, there are only 2 different cycles for this cannonball setup. The first is a slower cycle, which results in the player reaching the caution bonk 45 seconds in, which leads into the ending section cannonball spawning much further behind. The faster cycle, though, starts much earlier. You know that you get this cycle when the rightmost cannonball spawns further down here, where the player can then reach their caution bonk 42 seconds into the run. But then, after jumping to the tallest platform in the final section, the easiest cannonball to reach spawns even further back, which loses us time. This cycle was the reason why I lost so much time in my hard mode speedrun. However, in the normal mode speedrun, there's also another cannonball in front of that one, but to my knowledge, it was just barely impossible to parry it before it hit the spikes. Assuming I made no mistakes earlier in the run, would I be able to reach that cannonball? Maybe, but if Dog Lover knew about this cycle, he might end up reaching it before me, so if I wanted to get this run before him, I would have to leave a distraction. Seeing as how he grinded hard mode before anything else, it'd be fair to say that if I beat his hard mode record, he would have no choice but to try to take back his hard mode record before grinding normal mode. And so, after booting up Eraser hard mode on March 12th, here's what happened. First, I made it out of the tutorial section, landed poop skip with no issues. Then after parrying 4 more cannonballs, I parried the planes up to the ledge, and then landed the fast version of the ledge cycle. With that, I performed box skip 45 seconds into the run, made it to the ending section, and then came the cannonball that could lose my time altogether. Thankfully, my parry was good enough, and with that, I submitted a 1:13.7 hard mode world record, beating Doglover's time by 200 milliseconds. In all of my runs against Doglover, he had beaten my world record exactly 1 day after I had posted them. So in this case, I could estimate that he would probably beat my time tomorrow, and then the day after, he could end up beating the fast cycle before me. So, with only 2 days left to be the first speedrunner to do it, it was finally time to break the final second barrier in Eraser. On March 14th, exactly 2 days after submitting my hard mode world record, I uploaded my final Eraser speedrun to the leaderboards. In 56 seconds and 889 milliseconds, I had broken the final second barrier in Eraser. For old time's sake, I uploaded the run with Doglover's favorite song in the background. But while I'd like to say this journey ended on a good note, Doglover has vanished from the community. He didn't even attempt to take back the hard mode record that I took from him. In fact, he hasn't submitted a single speedrun since then. To this day, no one knows the real story behind Doglover69. Just how did he get so good at the game so quickly, and why did he choose to do that in the first place? Well, today, I have the answers. But first, I gotta say, I've kind of been hiding the truth. A couple months ago, I had an idea for a video, where one person takes someone's world record and the other person tries to take it back. Seeing as how I was about to beat the sub 1 barrier in Eraser, I'd figured I'd be able to take it back if someone beat me. But with no one there to compete with me, what if I just did it myself? I can't fucking believe it. It got verified! Why did it work? In order to trick the community into thinking this was a new runner, I had to show Doglover's steady improvement at the game. So, over the course of a couple weeks, I began submitting times to the leaderboard, where I purposely threw to make Doglover look like a new player. From there, I slowly ramped up his progression, saved up a couple world records on both accounts, and eventually, I even broke the final second barrier in the game. From there, it was just about submitting all of these times. So, just to fuck with the community even more, I made these runs as scuffed and unverifiable as possible, infiltrated the official speedrunning Discord just to taunt myself, and even booted up the menu for the game in Discord so it actually looked like I was grinding for attempts. To you, E7, the moderator who verified all of these runs, please don't ban me. Please do not ban me.